Hello students, welcome to class 10 Geography. Today we are beginning a deeply meaningful and powerful chapter, Forest and Wildlife Resources. This chapter is not just about trees and animals. It is about life itself. It is about understanding that we are not separate from nature, but a living part of it. In this lesson, we will explore the concept of biodiversity and the ecological web that connects every living being. We will understand why India is called a biological superpower. We will learn why conservation became necessary, how laws like the Wildlife Protection Act were introduced, and how major initiatives such as Project Tiger were launched. We will also examine the classification of forests in India and, most importantly, discover the powerful role of communities, traditions, and beliefs in protecting nature. This chapter is crucial because it teaches us that humans are not independent rulers of Earth. We are participants in a complex ecological system. The air we breathe, the water we drink, and the soil that produces our food all are part of nature's life support system. And protecting this system means protecting our own future. So let us begin our journey into the world of forests, wildlife, and conservation. Imagine standing on Earth and looking around, not just at people, but at all forms of life. Humans share this planet with millions of living beings. From microscopic organisms and bacteria to lichens clinging to rocks, from giant banyan trees spreading their roots to elephants walking across forests and blue whales swimming in oceans, all of them share this habitat with us. This vast variety of life is called biodiversity. It represents the immense biological richness of our planet. But here is something important. All these living beings, including us, are connected. Together we form a complex ecological system. It is like a giant web where each thread is linked to another. Humans are only one strand in this web. We are not outside it. We are completely dependent on it. Plants, animals, and microorganisms constantly work to maintain the quality of the air we breathe. They purify water. They help form and enrich soil. They recreate the very conditions that allow life to continue. Without them, life as we know it would not exist. At the center of this ecological system stand forests. Forests are often called the backbone of the ecological system. Why? Because they are primary producers. Primary producers are organisms that create food through processes like photosynthesis. Green plants capture sunlight and convert it into energy-rich food. Every other organism, whether plant-eating animals, flesh-eating animals, or even humans, directly or indirectly depends on these producers. This brings us to the definition of biodiversity. Biodiversity is a system immensely rich in wildlife and cultivated species. It is diverse in form and function, yet closely integrated through multiple networks of interdependence. In simple words, biodiversity means variety, but not just variety. It also means connection. India is one of the world's richest countries in terms of biological diversity. Our land supports an enormous variety of plants and animals. Interestingly, scientists believe that the number of species discovered so far may be only a fraction of what actually exists. The real number could be twice or even 3 times higher. These biological resources are so deeply integrated into our daily lives that we often take them for granted. The crops we eat, the medicines we use, the materials we build with, many originate from nature. However, Today, our flora and fauna are under great stress. Environmental insensitivity, meaning careless use of natural resources, has put tremendous pressure on wildlife and forests. Because of the rapid decline in wildlife populations and forest areas, conservation has become essential. Conservation means protecting and managing natural resources carefully so they can last for future generations. It helps preserve ecological diversity, the life support systems of water, air, and soil. It protects genetic diversity in plants and animals, which is necessary for better growth, adaptation, and breeding. Our agriculture depends heavily on traditional crop varieties. Fisheries depend on aquatic biodiversity. So conservation is not only about protecting animals, it is about securing food, economy, and survival. In the 1960s and 1970s, conservationists across India demanded a national wildlife protection program. This led to the implementation of the Indian Wildlife Protection Act in 1972. This act introduced strong measures. It published an all-India list of protected species. It banned the hunting of endangered animals. It gave legal protection to habitats. It restricted trade in wildlife and wildlife products. Following this act, central and state governments established national parks and wildlife sanctuaries to protect ecosystems. Special projects were launched for gravely threatened animals such as the tiger, the one-horned rhinoceros, the Kashmir stag or hangul, 3 types of crocodiles, freshwater, saltwater, and gharial, and the Asiatic lion. Later, legal protection was extended to species like the Indian elephant, black buck, or chinkara, Great Indian bustard, also known as Godawan, and the snow leopard. One of the most famous success stories, but also cautionary tale, is Project Tiger. In 1973, authorities made a shocking discovery. Tiger numbers had fallen drastically from about 55,000 in 1900 to only 1,827. Tigers are not just beautiful animals. They are vital members of the faunal web. Their disappearance would disturb the entire ecosystem. The demand for tiger skins and bones, especially for traditional medicines in some Asian countries, pushed them toward extinction. The threats were many: poaching for illegal trade, shrinking habitats as humans moved in, the depletion of the animals that tigers prey upon, and a growing human population. Since India and Nepal host about 2/3 of the world's surviving tigers, these two nations became the primary targets for poachers. Thus, Project Tiger was launched in 1973. It became one of the most publicized wildlife campaigns in the world. But it was not just about saving one species. It aimed to preserve large ecosystems, entire biotypes of sizable magnitude. Today, several famous tiger reserves across India stand as a testament to this effort, including Corbett National Park in Uttarakhand, Sundarban in West Bengal, Bandhavgarh in Madhya Pradesh, Sariska in Rajasthan, Manas in Assam, and Periyar in Kerala. Over time, conservation thinking evolved. Instead of focusing on a few large animals, efforts began to protect entire biodiversity systems. Under Wildlife Acts passed in 1980 and 1986, hundreds of butterflies, moths, beetles, and even one dragonfly were given protected status. In 1991, 6 plant species were added to the protected list for the first time. This shift showed that every organism, big or small, matters in maintaining ecological balance. In India, Most forests and wildlife are managed by the Forest Department or other government bodies. Managing such vast and diverse resources is a complex challenge. Forest resources are divided into three categories: reserved forests, protected forests, and unclassed forests. We take up reserved forests. More than half of all forest land in India is declared reserved, and these are considered the most valuable when it comes to the conservation of forest and wildlife. Next are protected forests, which make up almost one-third of the total forest area. These are shielded from any further depletion. Finally, we have unclassed forests. These consist of other forests and waste lands belonging to the government, private individuals, or communities. These are most common in the northeastern states and parts of Gujarat, where they are often managed by local communities. Together, reserved and protected forests are referred to as permanent forest estates, and they are maintained for timber production and protective reasons. The distribution of these forests varies across the country. Madhya Pradesh leads the way, with the largest area under permanent forests, accounting for 75% of its total forest cover. You'll find high percentages of reserved forests in states like Jammu and Kashmir, Andhra Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, and Maharashtra. On the other hand, states like Bihar, Haryana, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Odisha, and Rajasthan have a large bulk of their forests classified as protected. This brings us to a very important point. Conservation is not just a government job. In India, forests are often the homes of traditional communities. These people frequently struggle alongside government officials to protect these habitats because their own livelihoods depend on them. In the Sariska Tiger Reserve in Rajasthan, for example, villagers actually used the Wildlife Protection Act to fight against mining activities that were threatening the area. In the Alwar district of Rajasthan, inhabitants of 5 villages took it upon themselves to declare 1,200 hectares of forest as the Bhairodev Dakav Sanctuary. They created their own set of rules, banning hunting and protecting the wildlife from any outside encroachment. We also see this spirit in the famous Chipko movement in the Himalayas, which successfully resisted deforestation and proved that community-led afforestation using indigenous species can be incredibly effective. Similarly, citizen groups like the Beej Bachao Andolan in Tehri and Navdanya have shown that we can produce a diversity of crops without using synthetic chemicals, proving that ecological farming is economically viable. Deeply rooted in these communities is an age-old tribal belief that all of nature must be protected. This belief has led to the preservation of virgin forests in their pristine form known as sacred groves, or the forests of gods and goddesses. In these patches, local people ban any interference and leave the land untouched. Specific communities worship specific trees. For instance, the Mundas and the Santhals of the Chota Nagpur region worship the Mahua and Kadamba trees. The tribals of Odisha and Bihar worship tamarind and mango trees during weddings. In the wider Indian society, trees like the peepal and banyan are considered sacred by almost everyone. Animals too receive cultural protection. Macaques and langurs are fed near temples. In Bishnoi villages of Rajasthan, blackbuck, nilgai, and peacocks are protected as integral members of the community. To formalize this cooperation, the Joint Forest Management Program, or JFM, was created. It involves local communities in the management and restoration of degraded forests. This program has existed formally since 1988, when the state of Odisha passed the first resolution for it. The way it works is simple. Local village institutions take on the responsibility of protection activities on forest department land. In return, the community members get benefits like non-timber forest produce and a share in the timber that is eventually harvested. This model shows that conservation works best when local people are made partners and not treated as outsiders. As we conclude, the primary lesson we learn from India's environmental history is that local communities must be involved in natural resource management. We need to move toward a future where these communities are at the center of decision-making. Any economic or developmental activity should only be accepted if it is people-centric, environment-friendly, and economically rewarding. Always remember the wisdom attributed to Gautama Buddha from 487 BC. He described the tree as a peculiar organism of unlimited kindness and benevolence that makes no demands for its sustenance and extends protection to all beings, even providing shade to the axeman who destroys it. To summarize what we have learned today, we've seen that humans are just one part of a complex ecological web. We've explored India's immense biological richness and the stress it faces. We discussed the landmarks of conservation from the 1972 Wildlife Act and Project Tiger to the classification of forests as reserved, protected, and unclassed. Finally, we saw how the heart of conservation often lies with local communities. Through sacred groves, movements like CHIPCO, and programs like Joint Forest Management. Protecting our forests and wildlife isn't just a policy. It's a way of ensuring our own future. Thank you for joining today's class. If you feel the video helped you in appreciating the chapter better, please subscribe to the channel and share the channel link with your classmates. Bye, take care, and see you soon in the next video.